So ESPN and a bunch of outlets are reporting that Lincoln Riley, the head coach of the Oklahoma Sooners, has accepted the job to become the next head coach at the USC Trojans. Now, this is a very interesting move for me because what's ahead for Oklahoma, the Sooners are going to be transitioning to the SEC, if I'm not mistaken, in the next couple of years. So that's kind of a boost for that program. Oklahoma's been one of the few competitive programs in terms of the college football playoff for the past 3 or 4 years, along with guys like Georgia, Alabama, Clemson, those kind of schools. Oklahoma's been in that threshold at points throughout the past 3 or 4 years. So it's kind of surprising to me that someone like Lincoln Riley, who has been thrown around in, at least publicly, in terms of NFL jobs, potentially those kind of situations, that he would leave a program like Oklahoma, who's been there for 5 years at this point, currently has a 55-10 record. I'm kind of surprised that he's going to leave because they're not a bad team this year. They're not a good team this year, don't get me wrong. They're not like a great team. I guess a good team is probably the proper way to describe them because they have performed fairly well. They are 10-2 this year. They're going to get a decent bowl. They did just lose to Oklahoma State, which probably shut down any chances they have of making the college football playoffs. So understandably, that's probably not great for them. But I'm still surprised. You have Spencer Rattler and Caleb Williams at quarterback. Now, will Rattler leave for the NFL draft, or will he transfer out? Yeah, probably. But you still have Caleb Williams as your quarterback. And he's not by no means perfect, but he's still a pretty good quarterback to have. You still have a program that's, they're going to be losing guys like Nick Benito, Perrion Winfrey. You're going to be losing players on that defense, a lot of them. But you've built the defense up over the past couple of years. You've gotten better defensively. You should be recruiting better. You have a very talented team and a program that's very successful and very public. So the only reason I could think about him leaving or wanting to leave Oklahoma is just because he found out that USC money is probably really nice. I'm guessing they have a lot of boosters there that are really going to finance him. Well, let me try to make my camera stop shaking. Sorry about that. But yeah, I remember Mike Tomlin, coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers, there was some speculation, could he go out there and be an option for the USC job? And Tomlin said there's not a booster with a big enough, from his big enough paycheck or deep enough pockets, whatever it was. They have a lot of money there. And there apparently were a lot of, maybe just 2 boosters who really financed the new deal from Michigan State's head coach, the one that pays him $10 million a year. And if he can get that, I'm guessing Lincoln Riley is probably getting more than that from USC. Just a guess. So that's a huge financial payday, which probably is why he decided to make the move. Because in my opinion, USC, it's a name brand program. Look at the stands. They barely have a lot of fans going to those games. USC, to me, is a much worse program than Oklahoma. In terms of talent and in terms of just being competitive right now, USC is not a dying program. That's not the right way to describe it. They are a over-the-hill program, a past their glory days program. They're not currently a team that's going to compete for the college football playoffs for a couple of years at least. And if you're Lincoln Riley, you're going from a program that's going to be winning 10 games a year to one that's going to be winning probably 5 or 6. So it'll be interesting to see how he transitions. Obviously, he's going to get a lot of recruits to go with him. Obviously, there's going to be change there. I'm not going to say it's going to stay the same forever. He will make that team better. I'm just worried that it might make him look worse in terms of his future career aspirations. I don't know if he's going to stay in USC for forever, but this feels like this is like where you go for the rest of your career almost. Because if you leave USC, you're leaving USC because you failed. And if you do that, you're probably not going to get another job like Oklahoma or USC again. Very few people get those opportunities 2 or 3 times in their careers. I think someone like Lane Kiffin's done it. But Lane Kiffin is just very, very weird in general. So he's a little bit of an exception to every rule in a sense. I don't know if Lincoln Riley can be treated the same way. And USC has shown they don't have the longest patience for guys to turn programs around. Guys who work for coaching staffs, guys who work in the athletic department, they don't have a ton of patience for this kind of stuff. They want to win. They want to win now. They think they are what they were 20 years ago. Or 10, 15, 20 years ago. So, if I'm Lincoln Riley, I shouldn't say that. I'm not Lincoln Riley, obviously. I'm not going to be Lincoln Riley. I imagine this deal was mostly pushed by the financials. Because it doesn't make sense from a team perspective. It doesn't make sense from a winning perspective. And from a career perspective, if you're looking to continue to advance yourself in terms of being viewed as a top 5 coach in the nation, you're probably better off doing that in Oklahoma, in that conference. because it's just not a very tough conference, really. I mean, Oklahoma State beats you, yeah, but overall, it's not supposed to be a tremendous conference down there in the Big 12. You're going to be losing you're going to be losing your membership because you're going to join the SEC in a couple of years, right? So that's a little bit of an interesting shift. Maybe he doesn't want to go to the SEC. I mean, that could be something, I guess. But that doesn't seem like it's an imminent issue. That's going to be a couple of years away at most. And even going to the SEC, I mean, it's going to be much more difficult at that point. Going to the Pac-12 is probably going to be easier to win there than win in the SEC. But also, Oklahoma becomes even more of a notorious job if you go to the SEC to some extent. So I don't know. I just don't know. It's a very interesting thing. I didn't expect him to be the one to make the move. Because he was already at a really good program. A program that's still really good. And is going to have a solid quarterback for the next 2 or 3 years. So it's very interesting to see that he's leaving a job with a solidified quarterback position to join one that it's questionable, to say the least. I mean, USC, let me pull up their depth chart right now, because I know they're having quarterback situations because they have Keenan Slovis, who replaced JT Daniels, who is now in Georgia, but not playing in Georgia because Stetson Bennett's playing better, but whatever, there's a whole situation there. They have, so they have Keenan Slovis, who was really good as a freshman, took major steps back the past couple of years. He's been banged up and hurt this year. Will he go to the NFL draft? Will he transfer? No one knows. You've got Jackson Dart as a true freshman who looks okay, but not fantastic. Caleb Williams, I think, was outperforming Jackson Dart so far. They're both freshmen. And I look at this roster for USC, and I don't see, Drake Jackson's really good, but he's going to the NFL. A couple of your defensive backs, Chris Steele, Isaiah Polomoa, I believe I say his last name. He's going to the NFL. Isaac Stewart Taylor could be going to the NFL. So you're going to be losing a bunch of your defensive backs. Your best pass rusher I mentioned is going to be going to the NFL and Drake Jackson. You've lost a bunch of interior linemen. You're going to lose more interior defensive linemen in this year's draft, and you lost a couple of them in the past couple of years. The offensive line is no standouts on the offensive line. Drake London, who's your great wide receiver, he's going to go to the NFL draft. He's injured anyways right now. I just don't see. He must be going there with the idea of over a 2 or 3 year plan, we're going to recruit and rebuild this team to some extent. We're going to change this program around from the ground up. Because again, other than financially, there's no benefit to choosing USC over Oklahoma. There just is not. The fandom doesn't exist as much, even if you have the boosters there. The fans, in terms of like the students and all stuff, it's not showing up to that stadium. There are so many pictures of that stadium being mostly empty. So it's not for the fans. It's not for the chance to win. It's not for the college football playoffs. It's not because of the competition you're playing against necessarily for at least a couple of years. The Pac-12 will eventually be easier to win with as USC than to win the SEC as Oklahoma, I presume. It's not for quarterback play. So I assume that money must be the one motivating this whole transition. Because otherwise it wouldn't make a ton of sense to go about this whole process. Otherwise, you would just stay at Oklahoma, I think. But I could be wrong. Oh, and this is funny. So, Oklahoma, Adam Schefter just tweeted, Oklahoma is targeting Cardinals head coach Cliff Kingsbury as one of the potential replacements for Lincoln Riley. I guess Kingsbury has 1 year remaining on his contract after the season. So, that's interesting. There's no way that should happen because Cliff Kingsbury's coaching the best team in the NFL, but we'll see. I mean, maybe his team performs badly next year and he goes down to Oklahoma. Who knows? But Oklahoma's going to want to hire a coach now for the future of the program and help coach Caleb Williams and not waste Caleb Williams' prime. So I don't know how it's going to work. Cliff Kingsbury's not going to leave the NFL for Oklahoma, right? I probably would have said Lincoln Riley would never have left Oklahoma for USC, but hey, we'll see. Our jobs are opening up. Obviously, LSU, Florida's probably going to open up. There are going to be a lot of really good positions this year that are going to get filled. So those will be interesting. I'll try to keep you all updated as things happen. But for now, talk to you tomorrow.